This is WFYI News Now. It's January 16th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, about 200 Indiana school districts and schools face a major cybersecurity breach. And last week's severe winter storm prompted a state of emergency and travel warnings being called in several areas. We have a feature story on how one group of people stepped up to help.
We set up a Google Voice number for people to call in or text to coordinate needing a ride. Basically just a big group message of all the drivers. So they'll post and whoever's closest can grab them, and we just kind of coordinate that way.
Those stories coming up. But first, a new TIF proposal will help create added housing units in Indianapolis. As WFYI's Jill Sheridan reports, a city-county council committee recently approved tax incentives for 52 new units at 2 apartment complexes.
The Kennedy and the Chloe complexes will be part of a new economic development area that provides more than $2 million in TIF funding. As part of the agreement, 6 units will be set aside as affordable housing. A Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee voted yes on the proposal during their first meeting of the new year this week. Brooke Dunn, legal counsel for developers, said the 2 sites are needed.
Prior to that, they were undeveloped, and the addition of quality housing will benefit the community.
The Chloe will be at 14th and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Street. A public art project is part of the plans. The Kennedy is already constructed just south of that location, near Indiana University, Indianapolis, and the Cultural Trail. The proposal now heads to the full council for a final vote. I'm Jill Sheridan.
Approximately 200 Indiana school districts and schools are facing a major cybersecurity breach involving a widely used education software provider. From WFYI's Education Desk, Eric Weddle has more.
The company PowerSchool provides software systems for K-12 schools to manage information about students and staff. A hack discovered in December exposed sensitive information like names, addresses, birth dates, and social security numbers for students and employees. Schools weren't notified until more than 2 weeks after the attack. Some Indiana schools report that data compromised also includes student directory details, grades, and medical alerts. Families are urged to reach out to their schools for more information and take steps to protect themselves from potential fraud and identity theft. I'm Eric Weddle.
And for our final story today, the severe winter storm that swept through the region prompted a state of emergency being called in several areas and travel warnings issued by emergency management agencies. So how did essential workers like medical staff get to work? WNIN's Tim Jagalow has this report on one way a group of volunteers made it possible.
On Monday afternoon, Ryan Sermersheim, president of Evansville Area Jeepers, is driving his lifted 2018 Jeep Wrangler back to Deaconess Midtown Hospital in Evansville. He's picking up an employee that he'd dropped off at about 5 a.m. that morning. The roads are a little clearer than they were at that hour.
This morning it was very slick. Everything was still snow covered. It was just tire paths down each lane. This storm, with all the ice we had, there were a lot of downed tree branches and trees themselves blocking the road. And I know we had a few members that were using their winches to kind of move those tree branches to get to the people to be able to give them a ride.
Before the storm hit, they activated what the Jeepers call Operation Snowflake, a volunteer service they started 5 or so years ago. When roads would become impassable, they saw a way to help and to have some fun in the snow with their Jeeps. They take medical workers, nursing home employees, and county jailers to work. Sometimes they take medical patients too. Sermersheim's wife Kelsey and other EAJ admins become dispatchers for people needing rides.
We set up a Google Voice number for people to call in or text to coordinate needing a ride. And then there's basically just a big group message of all the drivers. So they'll post and whoever's closest can grab them, and we just kind of coordinate that way. It was a way for us to give back to the community by getting hospital workers and nursing homes, that kind of stuff, give their employees a ride to work.
Sorry, Ryan. I don't
know
how
you're
long
fine.
You've been sitting here.
We were just sitting here waiting for you.
Summersheim is picking up his friend Kate Reardon, X-ray technologist at Deaconess. She lives on the hilly west side of Evansville. He gave her a ride at 4:30 this morning, and off-roading was required due to a fallen tree.
He took a picture of the tree, it was at least a huge limb that was across the road, and there was no way around it. He just totally off-roaded and went around. I didn't even know it was possible. So,
We got around it.
we did. We got around it.
What do you normally drive? If you had to go into work today, what would you be driving?
I would be driving a minivan that doesn't handle well in these conditions, so I don't even think I would have been able to get out of my driveway because of downed limbs. So if it wasn't for the Jeepers, I probably would not have made it to work today. Because we're a hospital, we have to show up. The sick people show up whether staff is there or not. So you have to have somebody to run the place.
She says about half of the Midtown staff made it in, and they were able to function as a hospital. Deaconess is not officially affiliated with the Evansville area Jeepers. St. Vincent Hospital employees are actually dispatched directly by the hospital to the Jeepers via phone line.
Have you been at it all day, Ryan?
No, I did go to work for about 4 hours.
Did you really?
Didn't get much done, but I was the only one there.
Were you really?
Yeah, nobody else made it.
Citing improved road conditions, late Tuesday morning, Operation Snowflake was closed, at least for this weather event.
Get you unlocked there.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for
the ride.
Tim, it
Hey,
was
you're
nice
welcome.
to meet you.
You get your truck going?
I just got it going about.
Summersheim said they had 30 drivers give about 150 rides starting January 5th through the whole ordeal.
All right,
Ryan,
Kate.
As always, it's an immense pleasure. We'll find a way to repay you.
For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Tim Jagalow.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.